The door swung open, and there she was, unannounced, unguarded. A stranger who felt like a memory. Harper's heart stopped, her paintbrush hovering mid-stroke, as the girl in the doorway froze, eyes wide with apology. In that split second, Brooklyn's golden evening light seemed to hold its breath, binding them in a moment neither could escape. Harper Quinn, 23, was no stranger to chaos. Her tiny Bushwick apartment, shared with her best friend Mia, was a haven of mismatched furniture, half-finished canvases, and the faint hum of indie music. A lesbian artist with a penchant for bold colors and bolder dreams, Harper had moved to New York City 2 years ago, chasing a life where she could be unapologetically herself. But rent was brutal, and her barista job at a local coffee shop barely covered her share. Mia, her roommate, was her anchor, loud, loyal, and perpetually late for everything. They'd met at an open mic night, bonded over bad poetry, and decided to split a lease the next week. Life was messy but good, until Mia's younger sister, Lena, showed up. Lena Coleman, 21, was nothing like Mia. Where Mia was a whirlwind, Lena was a quiet storm. She'd arrived in Brooklyn that summer, fresh from a small town in upstate New York, to spend a few weeks before starting grad school. Harper hadn't thought much of it when Mia mentioned her sister was crashing with them. "She's shy, artsy, kinda intense," Mia had said, shrugging. "You'll like her." Harper had nodded, expecting a polite, forgettable houseguest. She wasn't prepared for the girl who walked through her door without knocking. It was a humid July evening, and Harper was lost in her latest painting, a vibrant swirl of blues and reds meant to capture the ache of unrequited love. She wore an old flannel, sleeves rolled up, her short chestnut hair tucked behind one ear. The apartment was quiet, Mia out at a gig, when the door creaked open. Harper spun around, paintbrush in hand, and there stood Lena, tall, with auburn waves cascading over her shoulders, clutching a sketchbook like a lifeline. Her green eyes widened, a flush creeping up her neck. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," Lena stammered, stepping back. "I thought." Mia said this was the guest room. Harper blinked, her heart still racing from the interruption. Nope, this is my room. Mia's probably out charming the socks off some bar crowd." She grinned, trying to ease the tension. "You must be Lena." Lena nodded, her gaze darting to the canvas. "Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful." Her voice was soft, but there was a spark in her eyes, like she saw something in the painting Harper hadn't even realized she'd put there. "Thanks," Harper said, suddenly self-conscious. "You draw too, huh?" She nodded at the sketchbook. Lena hugged it tighter. "A little. Mostly just feelings I can't say out loud." That line hit Harper like a freight train. She knew that feeling. Hiding parts of herself, sketching the truth in shadows because the world wasn't always kind to girls who loved girls. She wanted to ask more, but Lena was already backing out, mumbling apologies. As the door clicked shut, Harper felt a strange pull, like a thread had tethered her to the stranger. The next morning, over coffee, Mia filled Harper in. Lena was staying for 6 weeks, figuring out her next steps before diving into a master's program in art therapy. She'd grown up in a conservative town, where being openly queer wasn't an option. "She's still figuring herself out," Mia said, stirring sugar into her mug. "Be nice, okay? She's been through some stuff." Harper nodded, but her mind was already on Lena's shy smile, the way her fingers gripped that sketchbook like it held her secrets. She didn't know it yet, but that moment in her doorway was the start of something unstoppable. Over the next week, Lena settled into the apartment's rhythm. She was quiet, often curled up on the couch with her sketchbook, but her presence was magnetic. Harper caught herself stealing glances. Lena's focused frown as she drew, the way she hummed softly to herself, oblivious to the world. They started talking more, small moments that felt bigger than they should. Lena loved Harper's paintings, asking questions that cut straight to the heart of her work. Harper learned Lena was a poet, too, her words raw and unguarded when she shared them. One night, after Mia crashed early, Harper and Lena stayed up, sprawled on the living room floor with a bottle of cheap wine. The city hummed outside, a distant siren weaving into their conversation. Lena opened her sketchbook, showing Harper a drawing of two hands reaching for each other, never touching. "It's about wanting something you're afraid to take," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Harper's chest tightened. "I know that feeling," she admitted, her eyes locked on Lena's. For a moment, the air felt charged, like a storm was about to break. Then Lena looked away, and the moment slipped. But it didn't vanish. Every day, the pull grew stronger. Harper noticed how Lena's laugh lit up the room, how her touch lingered when she passed the salt at dinner. Lena started joining Harper at the coffee shop, sketching while Harper worked the counter. Customers loved her quiet charm, and Harper loved watching her, until she caught herself wondering what it would be like to kiss her. The tension built like a slow-burning fuse. Harper was out, proud and unafraid, but Lena was still navigating her truth. Harper saw the fear in her eyes, the weight of a small-town past where love like theirs was whispered about in shame. Yet she also saw the longing, the way Lena's gaze lingered when she thought Harper wasn't looking. One evening, as they walked home from a street fair, their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. The city buzzed around them, but all Harper could hear was her own heartbeat. "Lena," she started, her voice low. "What are you so afraid of?" Lena stopped, her eyes searching Harper's. "Everything," she whispered. "But mostly this." She gestured between them, her hand trembling. Harper stepped closer, her breath catching. "You don't have to be afraid with me." For a moment, they stood there, the world fading away. Then Lena's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. It was Mia calling them back to reality. But as they walked home, Harper knew this was only the beginning. The apartment felt smaller with every passing day, as if the walls were closing in to push Harper and Lena closer. Harper tried to focus on her art, her job, her life, but Lena was everywhere. Her laugh echoed in the kitchen. Her sketches littered the coffee table, and her scent, lavender and ink, lingered in the air. Harper was falling, and she wasn't sure if Lena was falling with her or running away. Lena, for her part, was a tangle of contradictions. She'd open up one moment, sharing stories of her childhood, sneaking out to stargaze, writing poems in the margins of her schoolbooks, then clam up the next, her walls shooting up like steel shutters. Harper sensed the push and pull, the dance of someone who wanted to be seen but was terrified of it. She'd been there once, back in high school, when coming out meant risking everything. But this was different. Lena wasn't just scared of the world. She was scared of herself. One night, Mia dragged them to a queer open mic in Williamsburg. The bar was packed, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, the air thick with anticipation. Harper performed a spoken-word piece about love as a rebellion, her voice steady but her eyes flicking to Lena in the crowd. Lena watched, her expression unreadable, but when Harper finished, she clapped harder than anyone. Afterward, they sat at a sticky table, sharing a pitcher of beer. Mia was off flirting with a drummer, leaving Harper and Lena alone. The music pulsed, and Harper leaned in, emboldened by the crowd's energy. "You ever think about performing your poetry?" she asked. Lena's fingers tightened around her glass. "I'm not brave like you." "You're braver than you think," Harper said, her voice soft but firm. "I see it in your sketches. You're not hiding there." Lena looked up, her eyes glistening. "You see too much. Maybe you don't let enough people see you," Harper countered, her heart pounding. The moment stretched, fragile and electric. Then Lena stood abruptly, muttering something about needing air. Harper followed her outside, the cool night air a shock after the bar's warmth. Lena leaned against a brick wall, her breath uneven. "Lena, talk to me," Harper said, stepping closer. "What's going on?" Lena shook her head, tears brimming. "I don't know how to do this, Harper. Back home, I was invisible. I had to be. If I let myself feel this—" She stopped, her voice breaking. "What if it ruins everything?" Harper's chest ached. She wanted to reach out, to pull Lena close, but she held back. "It won't ruin you," she said quietly. "It might save you." Lena looked at her, raw and unguarded, and for a moment, Harper thought she might close the distance. But then Mia burst out of the bar, laughing and oblivious, and the spell broke. The next few days were a tightrope walk. Lena was quieter, retreating into her sketchbook, while Harper threw herself into her art, painting with a ferocity that scared her. Mia noticed the tension but chalked it up to artist vibes. Harper didn't correct her. She couldn't explain what was happening. Not when she barely understood it herself. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late, the apartment dark except for the glow of Harper's desk lamp. She was sketching, trying to capture the curve of Lena's jaw from memory, when the door opened. Lena stood there, in pajamas, her hair a mess, her eyes wide with something Harper couldn't name. "I can't sleep," Lena said, her voice barely audible. "Can I stay here for a bit?" Harper nodded, her throat tight. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, her sketchbook in her lap. They didn't speak at first, just sat in the quiet, the city's hum a distant lullaby. Then Lena opened her sketchbook and slid it toward Harper. The page showed two figures, their hands almost touching, surrounded by a storm of color. "It's us," Lena whispered. "Isn't it?" Harper's breath caught. She looked at Lena, at the vulnerability in her eyes, and knew she couldn't hold back anymore. "Yeah," she said, her voice rough. "It's us." Lena reached out, her hand trembling, and Harper met her halfway. Their fingers intertwined, and the world shifted. It wasn't a kiss, not yet, just a touch, a promise, a beginning. But it was enough to set Harper's heart on fire. The days that followed were a blur of stolen glances and tentative touches. Harper and Lena danced around each other, their connection growing in the quiet moments, sharing coffee in the morning, laughing over burnt toast, trading stories about their dreams. But the unspoken hung heavy between them. Harper was ready to dive in, to claim this fragile, beautiful thing. Lena, though, was still caught in her own storm. One afternoon, while Mia was out, Lena joined Harper on the fire escape, the city sprawling below them. The air was thick with summer heat, but Lena shivered, her arms wrapped around herself. "I've never felt like this before," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not with anyone." Harper's heart soared, but she saw the fear in Lena's eyes. "You don't have to have it all figured out," she said. "Just let yourself feel it." Lena shook her head. "It's not that simple. My family, they'd never understand. Back home, I was taught this was wrong. That I was wrong." Harper's jaw tightened. She'd heard those words before, felt their sting. "You're not wrong, Lena. You're you. And that's enough." Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't pull away when Harper took her hand. They sat there, the city's pulse blending with their own, until Lena leaned her head on Harper's shoulder. It was the closest they'd come to crossing the line, and it left Harper dizzy with hope. But hope was fragile. A week later, Mia caught them holding hands in the kitchen. She froze, her eyes narrowing. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone sharp. Harper's stomach dropped. Lena yanked her hand back, her face pale. "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just talking." Mia didn't buy it. She cornered Harper later, her voice low. "She's my sister, Harper. She's not out. She's not ready. Don't push her into something she can't handle." "I'm not pushing," Harper said, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "I care about her, Mia. More than you know." Mia sighed, her anger softening. "Just be careful. For both your sakes." The warning lingered, but Harper couldn't stay away. Neither could Lena. They started meeting outside the apartment, stealing moments in parks and cafes, where they could be themselves without Mia's watchful eye. Each touch, each shared laugh, felt like a rebellion against the world's rules. Then came the letter. Lena found it in her backpack one morning, forwarded from her parents' address. It was from her old church, a cold, formal note reminding her of her place in their community. Harper found her crying on the couch, the letter crumpled in her hand. "They think I'm broken," Lena whispered. "They always have." Harper knelt in front of her, her hands on Lena's knees. "You're not broken. You're beautiful. And I'll keep saying it until you believe it. Lena looked at her, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time, she didn't look away. She leaned forward, and their lips met, a soft, trembling kiss that felt like coming home. It was brief, but it was everything. The kiss changed everything, and nothing. Lena was still skittish, pulling back whenever they got too close in public. Harper tried to be patient, but the weight of Lena's fear was starting to wear on her. She'd been out since she was 16, fighting for her place in a world that didn't always welcome her. Lena's hesitation felt like a step backward, a reminder of the closet she'd left behind. One night, they went to a queer art show in the Lower East Side. Lena's eyes lit up at the bold, unapologetic work, and Harper felt a surge of pride watching her. They held hands under the table, hidden from the world, but when a friend of Harper's approached, Lena dropped her hand like it burned. Later, on the subway home, Harper couldn't hold it in. "Why do you do that?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. "You act like I'm a secret." Lena's face fell. "I'm not ashamed of you, Harper. I'm just scared. I don't know how to be this person yet." Harper softened, but the hurt lingered. "I can't be your secret forever, Lena. I've done that. It breaks you." The rest of the ride was silent, the distance between them growing. When they got home, Lena retreated to her room, and Harper threw herself into her painting, each stroke angrier than the last. Mia noticed the shift. Over breakfast, she gave Harper a pointed look. "You two need to figure this out," she said. "You're both miserable." Harper didn't respond. She didn't know how to fix it. Not when Lena was fighting a battle Harper had already won. The breaking point came at a rooftop party in Greenpoint. The night was warm, the skyline glittering, and Lena looked radiant in a borrowed dress. They danced, their bodies close, and for a moment Harper thought they'd crossed a threshold. Then a drunk guest made a crude comment about hot lesbians, and Lena froze, her face paling. She bolted, leaving Harper alone on the rooftop. Harper found her in an alley, leaning against a wall, her breath ragged. "I can't do this," Lena said, her voice breaking. "I thought I could, but I can't." Harper's heart shattered, but she kept her voice steady. "You can, but you have to choose it. I can't choose for you." Lena looked at her, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and walked away. The apartment was unbearable without Lena's warmth. She'd moved to a friend's place across town, citing space to figure things out. Harper threw herself into her art, painting canvases that screamed with pain and longing. Mia tried to mediate, but Harper shut her out. She didn't want pity. She wanted Lena. Days turned into weeks, and Harper's world felt gray. She worked double shifts at the coffee shop, avoiding the apartment where every corner held a memory. She stopped painting, her creativity drained by the ache in her chest. Then, one morning, a package arrived. It was Lena's sketchbook, left behind in her rush to leave. Harper hesitated, then opened it. Page after page was filled with drawings of her. Harper laughing, Harper painting, Harper's hands, her eyes. The last page held a poem, written in Lena's careful script. "You are the color I didn't know I needed, the light I was too afraid to chase. I'm sorry I ran. I'm trying to find my way back." Harper's hands shook as she read it. She wanted to call Lena, to run to her, but she didn't. Lena needed to come back on her own terms. A week later, Lena showed up at the coffee shop. She looked different, stronger, like she'd shed a weight. "I told my parents," she said, her voice steady. "About me, about us. They didn't take it well, but I did it." Harper's heart leapt. And I'm done hiding," Lena said, stepping closer. "I love you, Harper. I'm scared, but I love you." Harper pulled her into a hug, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too," she whispered. Lena moved back into the apartment, but things weren't instantly perfect. They fought, about Lena's fears, Harper's impatience, the weight of their different pasts. But they also laughed, created, and loved fiercely. Mia, ever the protective sister, gave them her blessing, albeit with a warning to not break each other's hearts. They started building a life together, one moment at a time. Lena performed her poetry at an open mic, her voice shaking but strong. Harper's paintings took on new life, infused with the colors of their love. They faced the world together, hand in hand, unafraid. One night, on the fire escape, Lena handed Harper a new sketch, a drawing of them, their hands finally touching, surrounded by a burst of color. "This is us now," she said, her eyes shining. Harper kissed her, the city lights glittering below. "This is us," she agreed. "Always." Their love was a quiet revolution, but the world wasn't always kind. Lena's parents sent letters, pleading with her to come back to God. Harper's art was rejected from a gallery for being too political, but they leaned on each other, finding strength in their shared vulnerability. They attended Pride together, Lena's first time. The colors, the music, the unapologetic joy. It overwhelmed her, but Harper held her hand through it all. "This is what freedom feels like," Harper whispered, and Lena smiled, tears in her eyes. Lena started art therapy school, her passion for healing through creativity blooming. Harper landed a solo show at a small gallery, her paintings telling their story. They moved into a new apartment, a fresh start, and filled it with art, music, and love. One evening, Lena proposed an idea, a joint art project, a series of sketches and paintings about their journey. They worked late into the night, their hands stained with paint and charcoal, their laughter echoing through the apartment. The project became their love letter to each other, and to every queer kid afraid to be themselves. Challenges came, as they always do. Lena's family cut contact, and Harper struggled with self-doubt as an artist. But they faced each storm together, their love a lighthouse in the dark. They learned to forgive each other's flaws, to celebrate their strengths, to build a future on their terms. One night, Lena woke Harper with a whisper. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "Because of you." Harper pulled her close, her heart full. "We did this together," she said. A year later, their art show opened to a packed gallery. The walls were alive with their story. Sketches of hands reaching, paintings of storms and sunlight, poems woven into every piece. The crowd was moved, some to tears, as Harper and Lena stood together, their hands intertwined. At the end of the night, Lena pulled Harper aside. "I used to think love was something to fear," she said. "But you taught me it's something to fight for." Harper kissed her, the gallery lights dimming around them. "We're worth fighting for," she said. And they were. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real, fierce, flawed, and unbreakable. In a world that tried to dim their light, they shone brighter, together.